Chapter 7. Dead Sails on a Dead Sea. The sea stretched out before them, flat and endless, and wrong. The San Telmo moved only because Baltasar and Mateo took turns rowing. The sails hung limp, barely stirring. A yellow haze blurred the lines between water and sky. No gulls cried, no fish leapt. Only the soft groan of the oarlocks and the creak of wood marked the passage of time. Storms brewing somewhere, Baltasar muttered, eyeing the heavy sky. Or worse. By noon a shape appeared on the horizon. A ship. At first it was no more than a smear, but as the hours dragged by, it sharpened. A grotesque mass of wrecks lashed together with rope and scavenged timber. Half a dozen hulks. Their masts snapped and stitched like broken limbs. Torn sails dangled like flayed skin. It was a floating fortress, stitched from desperation and madness. Not a ship, Baltasar muttered. A graveyard. They adjusted their course, aiming to skirt wide, but the sea was still, and the thing seemed to mirror them, sliding sideways across the water without wind or paddle. As night fell, it grew closer. Lights flared along its makeshift decks, small, low, like guttering campfires. Figures moved behind them, too many. Bent wrong. Starving bodies, stripped of strength and reason, moving with the blind instinct of carry-on. Not men, Baltasar said quietly. Starving beasts, hollowed by hunger, until only madness steals their hands. Mateo's throat tightened. His hands shook as he gripped the tiller. From the floating fortress came a low sound, not a voice, not a horn, something between a moan and a prayer. The oarsmen, if they were still men, began to row faster, closing the distance. Baltasar stood, lifting the cannon barrel onto his shoulder. Get ready, he said. Beneath the small deck of the San Telmo, there had been a cache, rusted blades, a brace of throwing knives, and to Mateo's wonder, an old U-bow wrapped in oilcloth. The string had rotted, but during the long windless days, Mateo had fashioned a new one from sail cord and wax. He knocked one of the few salvaged arrows now, breathing slow. The figures on the floating fortress were clearer, gaunt, open-mouthed, clutching crude grappling hooks, their ribs protruding like broken rafters. Baltasar hefted the cannon. For Morales, he said, and he fired. The roar split the night, a single defiant blast. The shot struck the heart of the floating fortress with a scream of splintering wood. Fire erupted, sudden and bright, throwing the twisted crew into stark relief. But it did not stop them. Planks and rafts shifted, slamming together. The smaller raft, tied tight to the main mast, broke loose and surged towards the San Telmo, carried by desperate hands. Mateo saw a man, or what had been a man, swing a hooked rope overhead, aiming for the rail. Now, Mateo, Baltasar barked. Mateo raised the bow, heart hammering. He aimed at the flicker of torchlight off the iron hook. One breath. He loosed. The arrow flew true, piercing the figure's throat, the grappling hook flying wide harmlessly into the sea. Another form rose behind, a woman, skeletal and weeping, dragging another hook. Another arrow. She fell backward, vanishing into the dark. The raft faltered, slowed, and then drifted aimlessly, unmanned. Baltasar grabbed an oar. The cannon barrel, his iron club, remained slung across his back. Row, he roared. They rowed into the darkness, leaving the burning hulk behind, its cries fading into the endless night. Neither spoke for a long time. When Mateo finally looked back, the other ship was gone. Only the sickly stars watched them now, cold and indifferent. Days bled into weeks. The sun baked their skin, and water ran low. They caught a gull once, but even the birds were few. Sometimes they spoke, softly, about nothing, to keep the madness at bay. Baltasar told stories of battles fought for kings who had long since fallen. Mateo spoke of green hills and the river that sang to the stones. The cannon barrel, the iron heart of their escape, lay lashed near the mast, gleaming dully in the sun. The bow became Mateo's constant companion. He strung and unstrung it daily, whispering to it as one might a trusted dog. And then, one gray morning, the cry came from Baltasar. "Land!" Mateo scrambled to the bow, blinking salt from his eyes. Far off, a smudge and a shape. Hills, trees, a thin white line of surf. Castile. Home. Mateo breathed. Baltasar only nodded, eyes shining. They wept openly, not caring who saw. San Telmo creaked and strained, but she carried them forward, toward the shores of Castile, toward whatever waited beyond the tide.